Good afternoon. This is Michelle Cummings Steele, Chair of the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation. I would like to call this meeting of the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation to order. For each commissioner, if you would answer in the affirmative if you are present, and I will call your name. Commissioner Anderson.
Present.
Commissioner Haynes.
Present.
Commissioner Hughes.
Present.
Commissioner Johnston.
Present.
Commissioner Scott Barnes.
Present.
Thank you. And I'll just look. Commissioner Gentry, are you on yet? Okay. Commissioner Gentry will be joining us after class. I want to explain the telephonic meeting to you. The Parks Board must vote on the record that the COVID-19 pandemic requires it to hold a telephonic meeting as permitted under the Governor's Executive Order number 16, and that contrary rules are suspended. If anyone would like to propose a motion to adopt the telephonic meeting, please raise your hand and I will call on you. Commissioner Hughes.
Hello. I move that we adopt the telephonic meeting format.
Thank you so much. Is there a second? Commissioner Anderson?
Second.
Thank you so much. It's been properly moved and seconded. We will vote. Does anyone have any comments? We will vote through by roll call. Commissioner Anderson?
Approve.
Commissioner Haynes?
Approve.
Commissioner Hughes?
Approve.
Commissioner Gentry? Commissioner Johnston?
Approve.
Commissioner Scott Barnes?
Approve.
Thank you so much. The motion passes. We move to the appeal of decisions. Pursuant to the provisions of 2.68.030 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, please take notice that decisions of the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation may be appealed to the Chancery Court of Davidson County for review under a common law writ of certiorari. Any appeal must be filed within 60 days after entry of a final decision by the board. Any person or other entity considering an appeal should consult with an attorney. We'll move now to the consideration of minutes. I hope you've had an opportunity to read the minutes from our January meeting. Is there a motion for approval? Please signify by raising your hand and I will call on you, Commissioner Scott Barnes.
I had submitted some edits that were submitted to the commissioners yesterday. So I moved to adopt the edits.
It's been properly moved and seconded. I'm sorry. It's been motioned that we consider the minutes with the edits that were sent to the commissioners on yesterday. I see Commissioner Hughes. Is that a second?
It is the second, and I have a comment.
Please go ahead.
I also submitted an edit, and it was after Commissioner Scott Barnes, so I'd like that one to be included.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded with edits. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those edits?
I don't believe I received Commissioner Hughes's edits, but I'm happy to.
My edit was changing the word decisive to the word divisive, which is the word that I used regarding the issue of the monument. It's just typo kind of a thing.
Please allow the minutes to reflect the changes in the motion and the edits that were sent on yesterday. We do have a motion on the floor with a second. Are we ready for the vote? I'll do so by roll call. Commissioner Anderson?
Approve.
Commissioner Haynes?
Approve.
Commissioner Hughes?
Approve.
Commissioner Johnston?
Approve.
Commissioner Scott Barnes?
Approve.
The motion passes. We're moving now to Metro Council referrals. Are there any referrals from council members present, Director Odom?
Councilmember Nancy Van Rees is joining us today.
Okay. It's been properly moved and seconded with edits. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those edits?
Councilmember Nancy Van Rees is joining us today. Councilmember Nancy Van Rees is joining us today.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Van Reese, for being here. Do you have any comments for us?
Certainly. Good afternoon, everybody. I just wanted to touch base with you to let you know that, there's been a lot of discussion about the overpayment of funds to some parks employees. I wanted to acknowledge working with staff and with Director Odom, as well as the Finance Department, on coming up with full understanding of what happened. And I know that there was a comprehensive, fairly comprehensive discussion about it in Budget and Finance yesterday. We will speak only briefly about it at the Parks Committee meeting later today at 4 o'clock. So I wanted to come on here to explain that we're all very aware of the emotional situation, and are trying our best to balance that with what needs to happen. Councilmember Mendez spoke yesterday, encouraging the Parks Department, as they're working with employees regarding repayment, that they also include SEIU in those discussions, so that it can be something that is kind of part of an overall understanding between the employees and management, if you will, that we kind of utilize those resources. Beyond that, as I'm going to mention today at 4, I see this as an opportunity to encourage my fellow council members to acknowledge that there are many people working in the Parks Department that deserve to be recognized more often, to be considered in our comments more often, to have more gratitude put upon them more often, and that as council members, the best way we can do that is to supply appropriate budget to Director Odom to be able to pay everybody a living wage as promptly as possible. And so I'm going to do my best to kind of take a situation that has occurred and turn it into lemonade as much as I possibly can, because no one should be working for Metro and concerned about making their bills. And so we need to look at the root problem and solve it from the top. That old adage of, if you're busy pulling people out of the water, that you forget to look upstream and say, well, who's throwing them in to begin with? So I'll do my best to kind of make sure that the discussion remains active, that we honor and support all the workers in Metro, but particularly the folks that have been in this situation. They need to know that we love them, and I'll do my part to make that happen. Thank you again, Director Odom, for your leadership on this, and I look forward to being helpful.
Thank you, Thank you, Councilmember Van Reese. We want to thank you for your leadership in this as well, and for always supporting the Parks Department and carrying our message forth to your colleagues in the council. We look forward to further discussion. We're going to move now to, we have no old business before us. We'll move now to the consent agenda. I will accept a motion to accept the consent agenda in its entirety. Councilmember, Commissioner Hughes.
So moved.
Commissioner Anderson.
Second.
Thank you so much. It's been properly moved and seconded. If anyone has any comments, please do raise your hand and I will call on you. Seeing none, we'll do the roll call vote. Commissioner Anderson.
Approve.
Commissioner Haynes.
Approve.
Commissioner Hughes.
Approve.
Commissioner Johnston.
Approve.
Commissioner Scott Barnes.
Approve.
Thank you so much. The consent agenda passes. We'll move now to new business. 02-21-04, Mr. Trey Stewart, President of McCabe Park Little League, requests the board to accept the following donation: a new fence around the small baseball field located at McCabe Park, new bases and field dressing for the infield of the baseball field at Elmington Park. The surface in its current state becomes very slippery after a light rain. Additionally, it remains wet and unplayable for hours after a rain. To install gutters for concession and restroom building and a French drain in that area at McCabe Park. Director Odom, is there a staff recommendation?
The staff recommends approval.
Thank you so much. If anyone would like to propose a motion to this effect, please raise your hand and I will call on you. Commissioner Anderson?
I'm sorry. I make a motion.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Hughes?
Second.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have any comments regarding this business before us? I'm getting a lot of feedback. Okay, thank you. Any comments? Was that a comment? Scrolling through. Okay, seeing none. We'll take a roll call vote. It's been properly moved and seconded. We'll take a roll call vote now. Commissioner Anderson?
Approve.
Commissioner Haynes?
Approve.
Commissioner Hughes?
Approve.
Commissioner Johnston?
Approve.
Commissioner Scott Barnes?
Approve.
Thank you so much. The motion passes. We'll move to 02-21-05. Staff requests the board accept the transfer of Metro Water Services owned parcel of property located at 0 County Hospital Road, parcel number 080000007200, to be designated as permanent public open space. We will defer this to the acquisition committee. Moving to 02-21.
Sorry, may I interject and ask a question about that one? Okay, thank you. From the map, I couldn't really see what was what, and I couldn't get clarity on how big that is. Do we have a acreage amount, or how much land are we talking about?
Cindy, are you on the line?
I am. Yes. So, and I'm sorry, I don't have the exact acreage. It's 20 plus acres located off of County Hospital Road.
Great. Thank you for clarifying. That's great.
Yeah, I'm happy to resend, graphics if I need to, if that's a common issue of not being able to.
I think that will be helpful if you have them.
I guess we do have this color coded, but it's not clear what part would be the future park. All of the color pieces, or?
Sorry, trying to get to that in your packet. Bear with me. Sorry, I don't seem to find it in mine. I will send it to you and clarify what's what.
Okay, sounds great. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. If we could have that for of course, in time for the acquisition meeting, that would be great.
Board members, I'm sorry. I did find it, and I can clarify really quickly.
Okay.
I just didn't have it in front of me. So the property outlined in yellow, the boundary, that is the property that we're talking about. Does that make sense? Okay.
Come on mute. Yeah, it does make sense. I see it now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that clarification. 02-21-06, Mr. John Tuminello, Executive Director of the Centennial Park Conservancy, requests the board to accept a grant not to exceed $4 million from the Centennial Park Conservancy to fund the next phase of capital improvements in Centennial Park. Director Odom, is there a staff recommendation?
Staff recommends approval.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Where's the grant coming from?
Tim, are you on the line?
Yes, it is coming from the Conservancy's capital campaign.
So they're going to raise the money? Is that the idea?
That's correct.
Okay, so there's not one grant that we're accepting. Okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
And not to exceed. Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Hughes?
Just to clarify, it is one grant we would be accepting from the Centennial Park Conservancy. They will have raised it from multiple sources potentially, but the request before us is to accept the grant from the Conservancy. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I move that we approve this request.
Thank you so much. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you so much. Are there any additional comments? Any questions? Commissioner Scott Barnes?
Yeah, I guess this is one of those moments where it looks like we've got kind of two pieces of information in front of us. One is the grant, and then the other is the Metro Parks also being willing to contribute $1 million. So I just wanted to clarify that point. We're talking about receiving the grant, but are we also offering the $1 million as a part of that?
Yes, we are. And just so that you will know, and thank you for pointing that out, that this seems to be two pieces of business. Before it's even included on the agenda, the grant match has already been vetted internally. So, yes.
So the 1 million is part of the 4?
No.
It's above,
No.
above it. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Great questions. And again, staff does recommend approval. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Seeing no additional comments, we'll go to a roll call vote. Commissioner Anderson?
Approve.
Commissioner Gentry?
Approve.
Commissioner Haynes?
Approve.
Commissioner Hughes?
Approve.
Commissioner Johnston?
Approve.
Commissioner Scott Barnes?
Approve.
Thank you so much. The motion passes. We'll move to 02-21-07, Policy Committee Review of the Proposed Naming Policy for Metro Parks. The Policy Committee met. Is there a report from the Policy Committee, Dr. Gentry?
Hi, thank you so much. Apologize for my tardiness. So we gave we had a couple of really good meetings, great feedback on the policy with some recommended changes. So is this where we want to kind of go through those changes and vote on them one by one? Has everybody had a chance to see the policy changes, recommended changes?
Yes, we do want to take those today.
Okay, very good. All right. Okay. Make sure I got the most current one in front of me. Apologize. I just need a second. I'm so sorry. I don't know that I have the right one in front of me. I'm going to open it up on my computer. So the last version was version 4. I think it was finalized on the 12th. And so the changes that we will talk through are the ones that are in red. So there was a little bit of reorganization of the document to try to hopefully make it a little more clear. And so we've got the first section. We didn't make any change to the naming of the parks, the purpose, objective, or the definition, or any of the criteria, any of the description of the criteria. So in section 5A, one of the first things we're recommending removing is only geographic locations can be used for names of parks. So we're recommending the removal of that.
Looking for direction, should I I feel like I should take these one at a time to our legal team.
I think we should, but yeah.
Yes, please take them one at a time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
Macy.
you.
Thanks, Commissioner Steele.
Thank you.
Clarification.
So we have before us the proposal. Now I'm fumbling. Hold on. To remove from section 5A, to remove only geographic locations. The policy committee is putting forth this recommendation. I will accept a motion. If anyone would like to propose a motion, Commissioner Scott Barnes.
Maybe this is not a motion yet because I didn't actually see that on our existing policy. I thought, unless I'm misunderstanding your recommendation, are you recommending that we keep line 1 geographic location and then remove line 2? I didn't see line 2 in our existing policy.
Okay. So I think what happened there, Commissioner Barnes, is we added it and then we took it off. So that would be, yeah. So it was on there in red. So we added it and then we got rid of it. So my apologies on that.
I mean, I can make a motion to support the not adding it.
If it's not in the original one, I don't have the original in front of me. So I just have the red line version. So maybe, yeah. So if it was in red and we already took that one out, it was offered up and then we kind of rescinded on it. Yep, you are correct. You are correct. You are correct. So what we did add, though, under that section is the next one, is that it cannot be named after a living person. So the next the first recommendation is that a park cannot be named after a living person.
So we have before us this first recommendation. 5A, number 7, cannot be named after a living person. I will accept a motion. If anyone would like to propose one, Commissioner Hughes.
So moved.
Is there a second? Commissioner Scott Barnes?
I second.
Thank you so much. Been properly moved and seconded. I'll go through a roll call vote when I find where I am, y'all.
I do have a discussion item on it. Sorry.
Discussion.
Please open for discussion. I apologize. It's been properly moved and seconded. We'll open discussion.
Well, actually, I think I might rescind my discussion item because I think I'll come back to it. It has to do with A5. So we'll wait. I'll bring this up next.
Yes, just the one that's on the floor that we're discussing now. And so it's been properly moved and seconded. We'll go through a roll call vote. Commissioner Anderson.
Approve.
Commissioner Gentry.
Approve.
Commissioner Haynes.
Approve.
Commissioner Hughes.
I approve. I did want to ask a clarifying question, but
I apologize, I didn't see you. Commissioner Johnston.
Approve.
Commissioner Scott Barnes.
Approve.
The motion passes. Commissioner Hughes.
well, I was just curious about. It says in number 4 and number 5 that the person is non-living, and then adding the number 7. I'm just curious why we would have all of that in there. We just really want to be sure they're not alive.
It did.
Yes.
Guess what?
Commissioner Gentry.
Hey,
She said we really want.
it came from the committee. Put it out there for a vote. Do I think it's redundant? Yes, I do.
Commissioner Hughes, tell me where you are in 4.
So it's right above, right? So right above 7, if you go to 4 and 5.
Yes.
Well, and then the other question is, I mean, I'm really, I don't mean to be throwing a a hitch in here, but 4 says non-living, 5 says non-living, 6 says living, and 7 says cannot be named after a living person. So I think 7 does not belong. Personally, I've changed my vote to no on that, if I can change my vote.
So we have a comment from our commissioner. The motion has passed, but we have a comment from our commissioner. I didn't see her hand where 4, 5, 6, and 7, it's causing some redundancy. And although the policy committee did meet, this is now coming before us. And so we have a motion that has passed, but looking at this language, I want to put it to the board. You all see what she's talking about, what Commissioner Hughes is bringing for us, and our policy chair does agree. We have some redundancy. I see Macy Amos.
Yeah, you can make another motion and vote again. I was going to actually ask about 6 and 7 too. Obviously, I'm not a voting member, but for me, it's not clear whether a park can be named after a living or non-living person based on the language in number 6.
So commissioners, you have this information in front of you, and that's where I was going. We have voted. It has passed. We have a commissioner now that is saying this looks redundant. We can put another motion before us. But looking at 4, 5, 6, and 7, and based on what our legal representative has said for us, how do you want to proceed, Commissioner Scott Barnes?
I would like to make a motion that we remove A6, that we delete A6, a living person who's served, and so forth.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Commissioner Hughes?
Yeah, my hand was up for the other question that you asked, but so I would say it's not necessarily, it's number 7 is redundant for 4 and 5, but it's contradictory to number 6.
Right.
Number six was put in for one specific reason for Jim Fike. And I'll second Susanna's motion. We need to take it out. We did that because he was near the end of his life, and we wanted to name the rock in honor of him while he was alive. So I second it. Susanna.
Thank you for that history. It's been properly moved and seconded. Are there any additional comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll put it to a vote by roll call. Commissioner Anderson?
Approve.
Commissioner Gentry?
Approve.
Commissioner Haynes?
Approve.
Commissioner Hughes?
I approve. We are voting on removing number 6 now. That is the motion. All right.
That is a motion on the floor.
I approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnston?
Approve.
Commissioner Scott Barnes?
Approve.
The motion passes. We are removing number 6. 5A6. 4A6, excuse me. Turning it back over to Commissioner Gentry.
Okay, further down on the version you have, it's page, I don't know what page it is. So FJK, HIJK. So item K, under criteria, it used to be item L. On the original policy, no park once named may ever be changed. And is to remove that from the policy.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Hughes.
I move we accept this with deletion.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Scott Barnes.
I second.
Thank you so much. It's been properly moved and seconded that we remove L, no park once named may ever be changed, under the naming of parks 3000.1.
It's actually item K, updated version, sorry.
Okay. Item K, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, mine is L. I apologize. All right, Commissioner Hughes, did you have another question or comment?
I do, but not regarding this.
Okay. Well, it's been properly moved and seconded. I'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Anderson.
Approve.
Commissioner Gentry.
Approve.
Commissioner Haynes.
Approve.
Commissioner Hughes.
Approve.
Commissioner Johnston.
Approve.
Commissioner Scott Barnes.
Approve.
Thank you so much. The motion passes. Commissioner Gentry.
Do we need to take Commissioner Hughes's question first?
I'm sorry to go back to section A. So I would just like clarification. Since we've taken number 6 out, and numbers 4 and 5 relate to historical and cultural significance in land and facility. Number 7 is inserted for any other reason we would name a park after a person. Is that the thinking of the committee? That just
Yes, everybody else.
everybody else? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Does that make sense?
I got it.
Okay. Thank you. So again, in an attempt to bring a little bit of clarity and separate the naming of parks from what got us to this review, the renaming of parks. So there's now a section called renaming of parks, recreation areas and facilities. And so there's some adjustments there. So we have, so I would say, Macy, we'll take this whole thing as a new, that it's a new section in the policy. To be clear about that. And then just to be clear, I'll just read through it. The renaming of parks, facilities, and features is strongly discouraged. It is recommended that efforts to change a name be subject to the most critical examination so as not to diminish the original justification for the name or discount the value of the prior contributors. So you'll recall when we had original discussion around the renaming of parks, we asked Director Odom to do some digging around with other cities and get samples of policies. This was language that was common, I think, in a few of them, and it was recommended that it be added. So basically, what I want to know is, since this is an entire new section, I really want to get approval for adding the section as well as the bullet points underneath.
I think that's fine. I still have a question about section 5 that we were in. If you go down to letter L, and maybe this is just the version that I have, it says all community centers.
Yes.
The rest of that sentence is not included in mine.
It's incomplete. All community centers maintain the name of the park in which they, it didn't change.
Are located.
It's original. Whatever it says originally. In which they are located.
Okay, I have another question about section 6A. Little a refers to a Parks Board policy or a section that I think is incorrect.
Oh, I didn't change that. That was there.
4A5.
4A, yeah, so that was where that was already in the original policy.
Okay.
3000.1 4A5. Was in the original policy.
And so there is not a 4A5.
Okay. Well, we need to talk to somebody about that.
I think it should be 5A5.
I don't know. The original policy, nobody touched that. So if you tell us what it should be, we can correct it. But that's just an edit. That's not something we need to vote on. So do you know what it should be, Macy?
I would think it would be 5A5.
Okay. It looks like it should be 5A5, and that's just a typo.
Okay.
We can confirm that.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all. Sorry.
No apologies necessary. We need to get it needs to be right. Thank you so much for that.
So for me, I'm sorry, Commissioner Gentry.
I was just going to ask for clarification on, so for part B, since the whole section is new, Macy, do we need approval for adding the section and then go through the different bullet points, or go through the bullet points and then?
I think we can just go through the changes and vote on them individually.
Okay. Okay. So this is section B. I've read through the first word there. So to clarify, to separate, again, this was meant to distinguish it from the naming of a park. Now we're talking about the renaming. So item A, a request for renaming of a park, recreational area or facility shall be submitted in writing to the Parks Board through the Parks and Recreation Department. B, so this will be the first thing that we need to, specificity that we need to vote for under item B. The Parks Board will consider a maximum of 2 to 3, and so it needs to be 2 or 3, renaming requests per calendar year. So I will tell you that the conversation around that was we knew it needed to be more than 1, but less than 5. So either 2 or 3. So the motion that I think we're looking for is a motion that the board will consider a maximum of 2, or a motion that says the board will consider a maximum of 3.
Commissioner Scott Barnes.
Make a motion that we approve the language that says we would consider a maximum of 2 naming requests per year.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Are there any questions, any comments, any discussion? There were 2 proposals before us from policy, either a maximum of 2 or a maximum of 3. The motion on the floor is for a maximum of 2. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, it's been properly moved and seconded. I'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Anderson.
Approved.
Commissioner Gentry.
Approve.
Commissioner Haynes.
Approved.
Commissioner Hughes.
Approve.
Commissioner Johnston.
Approved.
Commissioner Scott Barnes.
Approve.
Thank you so much. The motion passes. Commissioner Gentry.
Okay, the striked out item C will skip because it was rescinded. It was something the committee was discussing, and then we changed our minds about that. So we can ignore that one. Item D, the Parks.
I actually, sorry, can I raise my hand?
We can't hear you. You're muted.
Whoops. I was interested in discussing that item. So I'm not sure if now's the time, but I thought that an edit to that language could add value to our process. Okay, sorry, I guess I'll just go ahead. I think that we'd seen a little bit of that from some of the other cities that when we did got the research from some of the other cities. And I thought that that having a contextual petition or whatever you want to call it with an application could add value, because I think that part of our hiccups in the naming request that came to us last year was that we didn't have as much context as we would have wanted, and there was back and forth about public comments and that kind of thing. And I think there could be help with getting a petition. So I might make a motion to add that back in, if I may, that would, but not from that district, but maybe from the entire Davidson County. And I saw a range of numbers of signatures from other cities, from, there was a whole range of numbers, but I wondered if adding language back for 100 signatures from Davidson County.
Is that a motion? Did you say?
Yeah, sorry.
Affirmative, that's a motion?
Poorly articulated, but that was a motion.
Well, I just wanted to make sure I heard you say that you were stating that as a motion. It's fine. Commissioner Gentry?
I'm ready for discussion because I don't have a second for that.
Okay, is there a second? So we can move to discussion?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes. I am wondering when we look at number D or letter D, Parks Board will require public participation for input on the proposed renaming. That does that encompass? We want public participation of some sort. Do we need to be more specific about the kinds of public participation in D? It just seems like I can. One's so specific and the other's so general. I wonder if we could come up with something in between.
So we have a motion on the floor to put that back. The policy committee had decided to strike C, and Commissioner Scott Barnes has proposed that we put the language in there to go back to public commentary from Davidson County as opposed to just the district. And so would love to move to discussion and need a second. Or the motion will fail. Seeing none, the motion fails. It looks like though we need to have some discussion. Commissioner Gentry.
No, I just wanted to just give some information as to why the committee reviewed that, right? So, and definitely those of you who were a part of and we didn't have good participation in the committee meetings, is pretty anemic. But I will say that if I recall correctly, a part of the concern was, let's just take the Hatley Park thing for an example, right? So you get all of South Nashville or West Nashville decide they want to name a park after somebody. They're in Davidson County, but it's not that community's park. And so the challenge became kind of twofold. Number one, if we go all Davidson County, which was also considered, that could be the issue. The other, with the number of signatures and them being from the council district, Director Odom raised a good point. Well, it is the city's park. Doesn't really belong to the community. But then there's also the process of validating those signatures, that they lie within that council district and things of that nature. So I think the mechanics of it and the potential to abuse it let me take abuse back. I think the potential for it to end up being something where we're in a renaming, a renaming was possible. And so I think we just tried to keep a process that was clean. If there is enough public participation, and when we say public participation, I think it's already defined someplace else. Maybe in the policy, maybe not. I know we had conversation about what public participation meant, not opposed to having some specificity here. But, we just have to figure out what that looks like.
Thanks for the discussion.
Thank you both. Commissioner Hughes, your hand is down now, but you were making a comment. I want to make sure that we get to you. Did she drop off?
No, I'm here.
Okay, I see you now.
Yeah, so I think I made the comment out of order because of I thought you were calling for discussion previously, but mine was.
Let me get to that, and because yours was on D, so that's the one that's next. Let's tee it up, and then you can.
Yeah, I was just going to say thank you for the clarification. I'll let process and roll, and the context that you can provide for those of us that were not able to come to the meeting on January 12th is helpful. Sure. Gentry, thank you.
Yeah, try to tax my memory. I'll do the best I can. Okay, so then item D is the Parks Board will require public participation for input on the proposed renaming.
So that is a recommendation coming from our policy committee. Parks Board will require public participation for input on the proposed naming. Commissioner Hughes? I'll accept a motion to that effect. I apologize. I'll accept a motion to that effect, or if there are any questions for the committee. Commissioner Hughes?
Which comes for, can you do a question before a motion? I'm happy to have Okay, all right. All right, so let me ask a question and I'm happy to make a motion. I'm wondering if we need to be more specific in what that means, public participation.
So I just figured, yeah, so part of the, thank you for that question, and that we went round and round on that one as well. So typically, just to speaking from the school board, when we say public participation, that is your opportunity for you to come to the meeting, and in our virtual space, we provide a number for you potentially to call into the meeting and make whatever comments that you want to make. So if we want to kind of clarify what public participation means, I'm not opposed to that. I mean, I don't think anybody would be opposed to that. I want to make sure we're not, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to make it too restrictive either. I get that. I think, now we're getting all kinds of emails regarding the renaming of Hadley Park. It's a different name, but more emails. That's public participation. However, have we put that out in the community that if you are interested in commenting for or against renaming the park, I think our be restrictive, but
yeah. So emails. So I get your point. It's very, very valid. So I will say, as a member of the school board, we do take in consideration the emails that we've received, but we also give the opportunity, right? And so I guess the question there is for me, I think the hang-up would be the require. So to require public participation. So say encourage or will provide opportunities. It would be, I think, an amendment. Will provide opportunity for public participation of the renaming, meaning, to your point, we will give notice. So, hey, the board's getting ready to discuss the renaming of a park. Here's your opportunity to come. Here's where you sign up. Here's where you need to be at the board by whatever time. We just need to figure out what that policy is.
Yeah, and so similar to how we let people know when there's going to be a meeting. If there's a period of a posted time, and then a mechanism for you can call, email, come to a meeting. And I don't know if that needs to be, if that process needs to be in this particular policy, or if there's if there's another parks board policy that speaks to public participation.
Commissioner Anderson?
I agree with Terry. There's not a motion on this yet, is there?
Yeah.
I would like to add to it, maybe we make it a motion that at minimum, there'll be public hearing during a park board meeting, and this is at minimum, on another day, late in the afternoon, early evening, so those who can't come to a noon park board meeting. So you have two opportunities for public input, because the naming of a park is a major decision, and I think people have the right to come talk to us. And so I agree with you, Terry. I think it needs to be outlined, what public participation, or at minimum, what we expect for public participation. So give the public at least two opportunities to talk to the board and voice their opinion.
So I'm sorry, my hand's up.
Commissioner Haynes, your knowledge.
Thank you. I think one of the questions that we discussed during the policy committee sessions is how do we get this feedback? And do we send out notices to everyone within a certain distance like we do on the planning commission? Or do we leave it up to the staff to determine the process by which we follow? And at the end of the day, we decided to leave it ambiguous on purpose and just require public participation, and then the staff would determine the proper process. Are we in the middle of a pandemic? What kind of notices do we want to post? I'm happy to entertain modifications to this because this isn't perfect, but we were trying to leave some wiggle room for the staff.
Director Odom, is there a policy procedure in place for public notice? That question has been asked now twice.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair. I would say it's more a practice, and again, whatever parameters you all agree to put around this portion of the policy, that would be fine. But I certainly appreciate you, Mr. Haynes, for considering the staff. So as you mentioned, you all have been receiving emails, unsolicited emails about, the renaming of Hadley Park. And certainly you would consider those, but those are not, we have not put out a formal, let the public know about a formal period of public input. I would expect that a renaming process would come with a formal process of formal period, excuse me, of public input, which could be by email, U.S. mail. They could attend the Parks Board meeting and speak directly to the Parks Board. And so what I don't want to do is box us into where we have to do anything in particular. I absolutely would expect that there would be a formal period of public input that could include any one or all of those methods.
Commissioner Gentry.
So can we say that the Parks Board will provide opportunities for public participation as defined by whatever? Can we create the administrative policy that then defines public participation may include but is not limited to, and maybe we put the caveat here, emails, letters, U.S. mail, postal letters, and appearance at a noticed board meeting?
Commissioner Hughes. So we have a few recommendations here. I think the last that encompasses all that we said, creating an administrative policy. I think we agree that the wording here is somewhat limiting. There was a comment about the language require, moving that to encourage. How do we get feedback? I guess I need a motion. I'll accept a motion for how you all want to move forward. Commissioner Gentry?
Yes. So I move item D read as follows. The Parks Board will provide opportunities for public participation for input on the proposed renaming change as defined in board policy to be TBD. I know your eyes got big money. So,
what did you say? I didn't hear you.
So,
what did you say?
The Parks Board will provide opportunities for public participation for input on the proposed renaming as defined, public participation, and I think we put after public participation, as defined in, do you have administrative policies?
No.
Practices. Okay, well, we can't document practices. Let me start over. The Parks Board will provide opportunities for public participation, which may include, but not limited to, emails, postal mail, and appearance at noticed Parks Board meetings, for input on the proposed renaming. I'm gonna write that down for you.
I second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, I will take a roll call vote. Commissioner Anderson?
Approve.
Commissioner Gentry?
Approved.
Commissioner Hughes?
Approved.
Commissioner Haynes?
Approved.
Commissioner Johnston?
Approved.
Commissioner Scott Barnes?
Approved.
Thank you so much. The motion passes. Commissioner Gentry?
Thank you. Item E, a supermajority of the Parks Board is required to approve the renaming of a park.
Okay, is there any discussion, Commissioner Hughes?
I move to approve.
Okay, is there a second? Commissioner Scott Barnes.
I'm sorry. I would like to clarify. I'd like for us to clarify what supermajority means in our case. if a simple majority is 4 out of 7, then could we say like 70% would be a supermajority?
Or let's just say 5.
I guess I'm just anticipating moments when we might have someone absent.
Good point.
So I guess I could second the motion if we are willing to adopt, just add the percentage of 70%.
This is Macy. I think a percentage gets a little bit confusing. I think it would be a whole lot clearer if you all put a number that had to approve it than a percentage of the board. Lawyers don't do math, sorry.
I appreciate that. Macy, how do you handle a situation when someone's not there?
Defer the vote.
Yeah, I think if you don't have, say it's 5 people and you don't have either enough to approve it or you don't have 5 people there, then I think it has to be deferred if 5 are required.
Perfect. Okay. So well, then let's add that language in 5 out of 7.
So
I second the amendment.
okay. So the motion
is, please restate.
A supermajority, and I'll just put, can I put in parentheses, a supermajority, parenthetically 5 of 7, of the Parks Board is required to approve the renaming of a park. Okay?
I think that captures it.
All right.
So that is the amendment. We have a motion and we have a second. Is that still okay, Commissioner Anderson?
Yep.
Commissioner Scott Barnes, it's been properly moved and seconded. We'll open now again for discussion. Commissioner Scott Barnes.
I'm just wondering, I'm sorry, I was the one who suggested the edit, but I wonder if it's better just to say 5 instead of 5 of 7. It's just more accurate. At least 5.
Okay. Friendly amendment accepted.
Been properly moved and seconded with the friendly amendment. I'll take a roll call vote. Seeing no other discussion, Commissioner Anderson.
Approve.
Commissioner Gentry.
Approve.
Commissioner Haynes.
Approve.
Commissioner Hughes.
Approve.
Commissioner Johnston.
Approve.
Commissioner Scott Barnes.
Approve.
Thank you so much. The motion passes. Commissioner Gentry.
Okay, hold on, there's one more. Okay, the last addition. The costs associated with the renaming of a park shall be borne by the requesting organization. These costs include, but are not limited to, signage, print media, online references, and other costs identified by the Parks Department.
Thank you so much. The Policy Committee has put forth this recommendation. Commissioner Scott Barnes.
I move to accept the additional.
Thank you so much. Is there a second? Commissioner Hughes?
Second.
Thank you so much. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a roll call vote. Commissioner Anderson?
Approve.
Commissioner Gentry?
Approve.
Commissioner Haynes?
Approve.
Commissioner Hughes?
Approve.
Commissioner Johnston?
Approve.
Commissioner Scott Barnes?
Approve.
The motion passes. Thank you so much to the Policy Committee for your good work today. And thank you to the board for hanging in there, and we're getting this done. That was it, Commissioner Gentry?
That's it, that's all I have.
That's all you have. We appreciate it.
That's it today.
Today. Moving to 02-21-08, Finance Committee review of the Friends Group policy per internal audit recommendation. Ms. Terry Hughes is our chair. Just a note for us, we're starting the review of the Friends Group policy, but Commissioner Hughes does have some comments. Commissioner Hughes.
Yes. Well, as your finance chair, I have been talking with our finance director, Shanita White, and she's going to really explain this. But we received an audit on our Friends and Support Group policy from the Metro Audit Department, and you all have received that. There are some requests that we need to consider as a committee, as a finance committee, and we will get to that. But I believe it makes sense now for Chinita, if you will, to share with us the findings of the audit.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Ms. White.
Thank you. Basically, the recommendation, or the matter that we should be discussing today from the audit committee, internal audit committee here at the Metro, is you probably can find it on page 7. Is to evaluate and determine if the policy needs to be revised, if management or the Board of Parks and Recreation determines the requirements are too burdensome, or if more stringent requirements are needed. So that is the matter that is before us. If you go, I think on page 4 is where the observation exactly all the details behind the observation from the audit. And I can take any questions if you all have questions regarding the observation that was done by the internal auditors that were here in the department.
Are there any questions?
Are there any questions? Oh, sorry.
Well, I'm having a hard time hearing, so I might need help in just repeating.
So I couldn't hear you. Let me see if I can say it. Can you guys hear me okay? Can you hear me? Okay. What was found is that we have requirements and that they're not really being followed particularly uniformly by our friends departments and by our friends groups, and that it is suggested that we look at our requirements to make sure they are reasonable. Are they too stringent, or do they need to be more stringent? And then come up with a way of making sure that they are complied with. And our job today is to just take a look at the requirements and determine if we want to review the current policy and the current requirements. That's really what we have to do today. I do have some feedback from some friends organizations that I reached out to just on their side of what it's like to comply or not comply. And so I'm happy to share those when the time is right. But that's kind of what's before us. And are there any questions?
Commissioner Hughes, do you mind if I make a couple comments? Okay. As Commissioner Hughes mentioned, this review of the policy is based on an internal audit from the internal audit department of Metro. It was nothing that brought it on, just a routine review. And Commissioner Anderson probably can recall us making changes or revisions to the Friends Group policy maybe 2 or 3 years ago to try to make sure that the information that we receive from Friends Groups, the financials and such, are consistent and that we are in uniform. So before that, they would certainly submit the information, their annual financials and activities, but there was no format set out by the Parks Department, and that's what we were looking to do. I certainly welcome this audit and these audit findings because it will give us an opportunity, in particular, with the nonprofit expertise of Commissioner Hughes, to look at if the policy in terms of the requirements of the reporting requirements to the Parks Board, if they are fair and reasonable. We certainly do not want to place any kind of undue burden on a Friends Group, but we absolutely need them to comply with what is in this policy as, Metro will hold us accountable and we will hold the Friends Groups accountable. And, that's certainly a big part of what we do here at Parks. So we just need to make sure this policy is reasonable and fair and will allow for consistency. And if there are any revisions or changes that need to be made, you recommend those and we make those changes and then communicate the new policy and requirements to the Friends group so we can begin receiving information and tracking it internally. So sorry to take up so much time, Commissioner Hughes, but thank you.
Thank you, Director Odom. What other questions or discussion points are coming up for commissioners? George, did you have something?
So I was just curious. So this is a report. You're clarifying the reporting process, correct? Terry.
Well, the reporting, the requirements. So what we learned in the findings of the audit, and I'm looking for my. We have 18 Friends organizations who in the period of the audit, which was from July through 2017 through September 2019, so a 2-year and 2-month period, they gave a total of $1,300,000, so significant support. But it was found that most of the groups did not meet all the requirements in terms of reporting. There's an April 1st deadline for 990 reporting for certain things. And so the question is, why did they not comply? And so what's the process, and is the policy need to be looked at again, and how can we, and then also, what is the information? Make sure we're asking for the information that we need and that we're using the information when we get it. Well, so to me, those are all the things that we need to be thinking through.
Well,
and also,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was going to say, I know Monique's heard this many times from me and other previous board members. Yes, that needs to be standardized. We need to make sure they're following it. I've always been concerned that we're not looking at what is the money's being spent on. Is it too much payroll? Is it too whatever? Make sure they're within their mission, because as fiduciaries, as board members of the park board, we're fiduciaries for these Friends groups, and they ultimately report up to us. So not only a reporting requirement, and Terry, you would know better than anybody on the phone, what matrix do we measure them by? Not that we're playing Big Brother, but we just want to make sure no one is raising $100,000 and spending 99 on it on payroll, for the Friends of so-and-so park. I just want to make sure that they're within their mission and using the funds appropriately. That needs to be part of this, right?
I think so. And then the other question that comes up for me is, how did we have a 2-year and 2-month period where we didn't know that our Friends groups weren't complying? So what are we doing with the information? How are we requesting it? And then when we get it, how are we sharing it with each other? Or is it compiled? I think there's also probably something on the side of the Parks Board that we need to do to ensure compliance and then use of the.
Yeah, we had good intentions 3 or 4 years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah. I just don't think we executed. So it's time just to hit a reset. So I think this is good. Simplify it. Don't make it complicated. And
Director Odom, do you have a comment?
Yes, thank you so much. I just wanted to, so that reporting period, of course, was determined by the Office of Internal Audit. And I just don't want to paint the picture that we did not know folks were not complying. Indeed, we have, I do think we do need to review and revise our practices or protocol in the office for holding folks accountable for non-compliance or something like that. But I will say that administrative staff have been very vigilant about reaching out to Friends groups, given the information that we have. Sometimes the president of the group changes. It may be a very small group. The president changes and they don't, I don't think it's any malice or ill intent, but they don't let us know the new contact information. It may be those types of things that cause for the non-compliance. But I just want to reassure the Parks Board that our staff here is very vigilant without being too overly aggressive about compliance.
Thank you for clarifying that. I do think that many of these groups are very small and only have volunteer leadership that changes without necessarily sharing with the next group. Oh, and by the way, on April 1st, you got to do this. So I just think there's ways that we can. It's an opportunity for us to look at the process, simplify it potentially, have some. And I don't know what the administrative staff does in terms of reaching out, but is there a regular reminder that goes out 6 weeks before things are due, things like that. I think there are things that we can do on our side to, at least do all we can to get the information back in. And then I want to be sure that we're asking for the right information and that we're using the information, because it shouldn't be just a check the box. It needs to be useful for Parks staff, Parks board, and so. And I'd like to suggest that we probably need to take a closer look at this. And we're not planning to solve this today, right, Director Odom? That's correct. To actually do today?
No, we are just taking it up, opening it up for the Finance Committee, who is the entire Parks Board, to begin this review process. Let me just add one more comment, just to put on everybody's minds, in addition to the possible revisions that Commissioner Hughes mentioned. Also, if I would appreciate if you would consider what non-compliance entails, if there is some attention given to that in the policy. If a group, for whatever reason, is not compliant, what that entails.
I think that's a very interesting conversation to have, and I'm curious. Each of these is their own separate organization, so they're not part of Parks or Parks Board. So I'm wondering what kind of a hammer, velvet or not, that we have in this situation. It's something that I've been wondering about as I've been pondering the findings of how you can't give money to Parks if you don't. I don't know.
Right. Well, here's a absolutely right. But I would, and this is up for discussion. This is not necessarily a decision today, but some of the things that I would think about is that if for a particular reason a group is non-compliant, that the Parks Board may rescind their status as a friends group. I mean, I don't know. Or if a friends group has been non-compliant and they are requesting fee waivers of any kind, they not be allowed. I don't know. That's just off the top of my head. Could be me.
Okay. Was someone trying to speak? George, was that you?
I came off mute. Was there anything else from the Finance Committee?
Do we have a path forward? We need to meet again. Is that the path forward?
I believe so.
All right. Well, we'll meet again on this subject. I have opened it up for you guys to think about, and we'll adjourn the Finance Committee. Ms. White, do you? Ms. White.
Well, at least by February 15th, we need to make some type of recommendation to report back to the internal audit. So I just want to make sure that our recommendation is to review the current policy and make and come back with a next meeting to make our individual recommendations.
That is very helpful. So I'll entertain as a motion. Would one of the commissioners like to raise a motion that says, thank you, George.
I said, do we need a motion?
Well, we need to come out with, I thought still couldn't hear. I
don't know
what she was saying.
I don't know what's going on with my mic.
So Or do we, yeah.
So, excuse me, Commissioner Hughes, if I may speak. So I think it is certainly sufficient today that the Finance Committee has started to review the Friends Group policy, and that is what we will report back to internal audit. We certainly before August 15th of this year, we will have revised the policy and put it in place, and we can report back then to internal audit of the final revised policy.
Okay, so it sounds to me like we've done what we need to do, and we will adjourn the Finance Committee meeting, and I will turn it back over to Madam Chairperson for finishing the Parks Board meeting. Thank you, committee members.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Hughes. We appreciate it. We're moving now to capital projects update. Tim Nate.
Thank you, Dr. Steele. I'll be quick. Just a couple of changes from last month. There's a new project on your on the sheet that has been distributed to you. That is Sevier Park Sunnyside Mansion restoration. Several years ago, we had funding for preliminary planning for the restoration of the mansion and outbuildings and associated landscape improvements. And we now have the funding to proceed with construction documents and, in fact, construction. So we are relaunching work on Sunnyside Mansion. The Watkins Park pump track is complete, and I just received notice before this meeting that the construction fencing around it will come down by the end of the week, and we will just soft open that. Hopefully sometime as we get into warmer months here, COVID will allow us to do some kind of actual in-person event. And then thanks to all of you for approving the donations from the Conservancy for Centennial Park Phase 3. With final approval on that, we will launch design of that phase. And those are changes from last month. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Moving to upcoming special activities and events, Ms. Jackie Jones.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sure everybody knows that February is Black History Month, and the Centennial Arts Center is honoring the month with Voices of the Past, a celebration of Black history, which is an impressive collection of works by local African-American artists. The exhibit, which is on display from February 5th through March 25th, provides an array of artwork ranging from realistic to abstract expressionist paintings, as well as charcoal drawings of historical and current cultural figures. It's an exhibit you will definitely want to see. And in addition to that, Fort Negley is offering guided tours focusing on the site's rich African-American history. They're offering a 1 mile long walking tour, which will include discussions on why enslaved, free, and self-emancipated people came to St. Cloud and how their contributions to the war directly impacted the creation of the U.S. colored regiments. There are 2 tours that are scheduled. One is on February 13th. The other one is on February 27th. And you will need to make reservations to be able to participate. Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you so much. We're moving now to the report of the Director, Director Odom.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair and Parks Board members. I just want to say, I'm going to take a deep breath right here and just thank all of you for your participation in all of our electronic meetings over the past several months during the global pandemic. Technology has not always cooperated with us, but you all have hung in with us, and I just wanted to say thank you. My head is spinning over here from time to time from our electronic meetings, but I just wanted to say thank you for your attention and engagement. So Metro has started our FY22 operating budget, working on that. Our submissions are due later this month. In particular, in addition to investment requests, which are improvements requests to our budget, departments have been asked to submit a 2% operating budget reduction. We will submit that for our department. That's about $815,000. So we will be working on that and get that submitted by the deadline. Just so you all will know, I have met with Macy, and we have started to talk about and initiate the petition that you approved at the last meeting for the petition that you requested we submit to the state for the removal of the private Confederate monument from Centennial Park. The legal department will take the lead on the petition, and we'll get support from Tim Walker and the Historical Commission, and also some of our internal staff, Krista Castillo in particular, for any supporting or supplemental documents that we need to accompany that petition. As you all know, through a letter that I shared with you all, Council Member Sharon Hurt, on behalf of the Minority Caucus of the Metro Council, has revised her request to rename Hadley Park, revising it to rename the park after the late civil rights activist Kwame Lillard, instead of Freedom Riders Park. So you all have that letter that Council Member Hurt sent. She will, once the new naming policy is, I think it has been adopted and put in place, Councilmember Hurt will come to the Parks Board meeting to share her thoughts and go over her request in person, and then you can move on to, we can move on with making those considerations for that renaming. You may or may not be aware that the NRPA conference will be held in Nashville, will be the host park system in September of this year. Last year, 2020, excuse me, because of the pandemic, the conference was held virtually. This year, it will be kind of a hybrid. It will be both virtual and in person. And so we have a team of folks here who are leading our efforts and also working with the state association to do what we need to do to be ready for September. I hope that all of you all will plan to attend in some way, but believe me, coming up, even before we get to that, we'll make you, keep you abreast of developments of that conference. And then finally, just wanted to let you all know, I know I've mentioned a couple of times about acknowledging Stan Fossick's service to the Parks Board. Janet has been in touch with him, and Mr. Fossick would like to wait until we are meeting in person again for us to acknowledge his service, and I'm certainly want to do however he so pleases. So we will hold off on a formal acknowledgement of Mr. Fossick's service to the Park Board until we are meeting in person again. And that's all I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Anderson. Your hand is.
Two points I wanted to make, Monique, and just to the board too. One is I've had many calls about Brookmead Park. It is a real issue. It is over off of Charlotte. It overlooks, it's across from Bell's Bend. It's one of our parks. It's connected with a water department piece of land. The homeless situation there is out of control. I drove over there twice in the last month. I encourage you to drive over there. You will not get out of your cars. It's very dangerous. We need to do something about it, and it's getting worse and worse there. But I would highly recommend that we put that on the agenda for the next meeting to address. I think others will probably maybe get on the agenda anyway. Just want to give everyone a heads up. It's a real issue, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're very aggressive homelessness there, and I've heard many stories, and they're coming out of our park. So I don't know, Monique, if you want to comment on that, or before I go to the next point.
I absolutely do want to comment. Thank you, George, for bringing it up. I actually have there's actually a meeting that has been called tomorrow on Brookmead. This will be one of several meetings the Parks Department has been at and involved in with the homelessness issue at Brookmead Park. So that what George described is absolutely correct. And just so that our Parks Police and Parks Maintenance Division has cleaned up that area, the parks that are Parks property, a number of times. What I would like for you all to keep in mind, though, is that, we're happy to do what we do. But what I would like for you all to keep in mind is that homelessness is a city issue. And if we don't address it on a city level, people are just going to continue to come. If there's no housing or any remedies for people experiencing homelessness, they come to parks and parks facilities or open spaces because they are public open spaces and they're allowed to be there. As we've talked about homelessness in parks a number of times over many, many years. And one of the reasons again, that folks come to parks is because they're public open spaces. And similar to libraries. Libraries are, indoor facilities, and so they have hours of operations. Parks, in many cases, most cases, have hours of operations, but they don't have doors that we can lock and close. And so we are all on board, believe me, for addressing homelessness in the city and as it relates to parks and greenways and our facilities, and we want everybody to be safe. But this is not a problem that parks can solve on its own. I just want to make that clear. We have many partners. We're partnering with the Homelessness Impact Division of Social Services and Metropolitan, and I think everyone has the same goal in mind, to support folks experiencing homelessness and to help our communities be safer and cleaner for those who want to use greenways and parks. So I just wanted to say that.
I agree with all you and I've talked about this so many times, and we're totally in sync. Specifically, this park, homelessness is not a crime, but sleeping in parks overnight and camping out for months is. I know stories of there's an apartment complex there where the people who live there hear babies crying at night down there. It's very sad. And so, but having said that, it just needs to be addressed. So I want to get that on everyone's radar. The second thing I want to bring up is the hazard pay for our employees. Monique and Park Board Department, I'll say it personally as a Park Board member, I don't think we should claw back money from anyone. Once we give money, I think it's a very delicate situation, I know, but anything we can do to help to support you or whatever we need to do, that's another situation that needs to be addressed. Mistakes are made always, no one's perfect, but I'm just verbally saying we're here to support our Parks Department employees. And I think our council lady said it perfectly earlier, but I think the Parks Board in general, I think would support you in anything you need to do in that regard.
Thank you, sir.
Moving to announcements, requests for future agenda items and open items. Are there any additional additions in this area?
No, ma'am.
Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to adjourn. Y'all want to stay? Well, we are adjourned. Thank you all so much for your time today. We've been long today, but I appreciate you hanging in. We'll see you next time. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.